The Tet Offensive was a pivotal military campaign during the Vietnam War that took place in 1968. Named after the Vietnamese New Year, Tet, the offensive marked a significant turning point in the conflict.
The campaign was launched by the North Vietnamese Army and the Viet Cong, the communist guerrilla forces in South Vietnam, against the United States and its South Vietnamese allies.
The Tet Offensive began on January 30, 1968, with a series of coordinated attacks across South Vietnam. The NVA and Viet Cong targeted major cities, provincial capitals, and military installations, catching the American and South Vietnamese forces off guard. The offensive was a departure from the guerrilla tactics that had characterized the conflict until then, as the communist forces engaged in conventional warfare. One of the most notable aspects of the Tet Offensive was the surprise attack on the U.S. Embassy in Saigon, the capital of South Vietnam.
Although the attackers were quickly repelled, the assault on the embassy had a profound psychological impact, both in Vietnam and the United States.
The images of the embassy under attack were broadcast around the world, contributing to a shift in public opinion regarding the war. Despite initial successes, the Tet Offensive ultimately ended in military defeat for the North Vietnamese and Viet Cong forces. The American and South Vietnamese forces, with superior firepower and resources, were able to repel the attackers and regain control of the territory that had been temporarily lost. However, the Tet Offensive had a lasting impact on the war's trajectory. The Tet Offensive shattered the illusion that the United States and its allies were winning the war. The scale and intensity of the attacks contradicted the optimistic assessments provided by military and political leaders. The realization that the enemy could launch such a massive and coordinated assault challenged the credibility of official statements about progress in the conflict. The Tet Offensive had profound political consequences in the United States. Public support for the war eroded significantly as a result of the perceived failure to secure victory, and skepticism grew regarding the government's handling of the conflict. The credibility gap widened, leading to increased anti-war sentiment and protests across the nation.
In the aftermath of the Tet Offensive, the U.S. began a process of de-escalation and eventually withdrew its forces from Vietnam.
The events of 1968 marked a turning point in the war, setting the stage for the eventual U.S. disengagement and the eventual reunification of North and South Vietnam in 1975. The Tet Offensive remains a symbol of the complexities and challenges faced by both sides in the Vietnam War and is remembered as a critical moment that altered the course of the conflict.